There's never been a better time in our industry to focus on sales growth than right now. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered and a few misconceptions I need to clear up. Listen to this podcast.
Welcome to the Intentional Success Podcast, where we unpack the top strategies, explore business trends, and drill down into best practices to help your live events production business grow and scale on purpose. I'm your host, Tom Stimson.
All right, I'm excited. Lots of questions coming in about sales growth. What are the things that we need to do? Who do we need to hire? How do we make all of this work? But clearly, there's always questions that all of you need to hear answered, and I'm going to try and do that for you today. Now, first of all, why grow, right? Why is growth ever important? Well, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we just need to maintain the status quo. We need to protect our margins, keep our client base happy. But there are other times that we need to get market share. But the main reason people are so interested in growing right now is they're having fun. I mean, margins are better. It's easier to close good deals with good customers. It doesn't mean that it's not sometimes a slog, and we'll talk about why that is. But if we're making better margins and our processes are smoother, we're having more fun. This is the time to grow your business. If you're having fun, you're enjoying yourself, you're making decent money, let's invest. Let's do what you always intended and make this business what you want it to be. Great. Now, before I get into what are some of the components of that, specifically, what are the roles that we need in our sales growth program, let me clear up a couple of misconceptions. First one is hiring hunter salespeople, these people that go out and find business, they kill it, they bring it back, and they process it themselves. They convert them into customers or clients, and then they go out and find more. I will tell you, it just doesn't work. Bringing somebody from the outside into your organization to try and represent you to people who have not sold to before or don't know who you are will ultimately fail, because as soon as they get a hot client, as soon as they get a job or settle on a transaction or get involved in a complex proposal, the selling process, the hunting process stops. So we're asking people to hunt, but then we're also asking them to process, cook the meal, then sit down and eat it and share it with everybody else. We're not hunting anymore. So hunting is something that needs to go on all the time. So we need a better hunting process. So I know a lot of people feel that a hunter is what they need, but I strongly suggest that's not your best first choice. Another misconception we need to clear up. Incentives, commission programs very often do not deliver what you hope they will do. They do not generate more sales. They do not make people more eager to do things. They generally backfire. They do, however, work in a few situations, and we'll touch on that. But if your biggest concern is how to compensate someone, you haven't asked the right questions about what it is you actually need. There's a really good chance you do not need commission salespeople for what you're doing. I'll talk about what those roles are. Third thing I want to clear up. No long-term selling strategy is going to work without marketing. And if you don't start your marketing now, bringing in salespeople, they're going to be, it's like hiring a carpenter where you have no tools and no materials, right? They're going to stand around and talk about carpentry, but not actually get any work done. So salespeople standing around talking about how great it's going to be when we have marketing is really kind of frustrating and really annoying. So don't neglect the marketing aspect of what you need to do. Many of the roles that you're asking me about hiring require marketing in order to be successful, but not every role is going to need it to the same level. And we'll talk about that. All right. So let's get into the meat of, what are the people that we need? What do they look like? Let me clear up some titles and some general job descriptions. But first, let's look at the customers. You have customers. Customers are people who do transactions with you. Sometimes the transactions are complex. And you have clients. Clients come to you for everything. Sometimes they come to you for things that you don't know. Customers generally only talk to you when they have a need. Clients talk to you because they think they might potentially have a need. There's a big, big difference. So clients are great because, well, they contact you early. They contact you in the idea stage, in the conceptual stage. They engage with you. They assume that you're going to support them in whatever this project is. Clients are great because they challenge you to do more things. But they're also very loyal, which is what we like about them. And if there is recurring business, we get that client's recurring business. If there's opportunity for new business, we're going to have the first opportunity to do that. In fact, a true client assumes that you're going to do the new projects for them. So clients are great. Clients are very often what we want. But a majority of your business is going to be built around customers. Now, customers can buy very simple things and very complex things. So we know we need customers and clients, but what are they actually buying? So we have transactions, okay? We have projects, and then we have relationships. So those advocates for relationship selling generally applies to clients. We can work at maintaining the relationship. We can do things that are relationship maintenance and building, and it could be a job or it could not be a job. But for everyone else, we are generally doing transactions or projects. A transaction has a limited duration. It's generally easily defined. The scope is limited. Transactions don't change. They're what we would call an off-the-rack fit. They're not often customized. If we're customizing something, it's going to move into a project, and projects have more value. Transactions are merely the sum of the parts. Here's the parts and pieces. Here's the delivery, or here's the setup, or whatever it be. You pick it up at my dock. Transactions are very simple. And we do a lot of transactions, and it would very much help you in this process of understanding what you need to hire if you will look at all the jobs that you do and figure out what the mix of transactions and projects actually are. Now, if we're selling transactions and these are customers, and they may not be regular customers, they may be one-time customers, what's the right interface? Well, many of you will tell me, well, I want my highest and best person to talk with them because we want someone who can find out whether they can grow that customer into somebody bigger, maybe turn them into a client, maybe upsell the project, that sort of thing. I'll tell you a story. I worked with a company one time who had that philosophy, and there's some fantastic account executives, they had some account managers, and they had some customer service reps. And the company philosophy that was any inbound inquiry, which could be the phone call saying, hey, I'd like to talk to somebody in rental, always went to the highest salesperson because the owner of the business felt that that person would do the best job of assessing the situation and assigning it maybe to an account manager or to a customer service rep. The problem with this is the account executives were so busy processing small orders because how do you get 90% of the information from the customer and then turn around and say, great, now that I know what you need, let me give you to somebody else so you can explain it to them all over again. So the account executives were swamped with all these inbound, unprocessed, unqualified calls, while the account managers and customer service reps were waiting for things to be thrown to them. I finally convinced them to reverse the process. All inbound calls went to customer service reps who would escalate them to the appropriate person by asking a few simple questions. So this is important to understand because very often if you need help in sales, you probably don't need help in the account executive realm. If you do a lot of transactions, you need help in the customer service realm. So a customer service representative, a sales representative, lots of different titles here, a project coordinator, or people who can take simple orders, determine if they need a more advanced sales interface, but basically figure out what the customer's needs are, get the orders in the system, make sure that the bill gets paid, everything happens. And a lot of your transactions, it may be as many as 50% of the transactions in your business, can be handled by a person who simply takes these small orders. And while they may not be an expert at it in the beginning, they will become an expert at it very quick. Now, customer service reps generally are not autonomous. They're generally, showing their orders to someone, getting approval, getting input, maybe going back and asking another set of questions to get the right thing. But as they get more experience, they will work more and more independently. So this very often, if we can funnel all of our transactional work, even if it's from a client, if it's a small project, the customer service rep can handle it instead of the account executive who might be assigned to that account. So customer service reps are a very important role that we overlook because we're often looking for people who can do big sales and small sales. No, you want people to handle transactions. We want people that we can hand those smaller projects off to, and we want them to filter all the inbound opportunities so that they go to the right person, because they know when this is beyond what I should be doing. Oh, there's a site survey. I need to escalate this, right? If this is a simple order, I can put it in, I can get it approved, we can get this deal done. So transactions we can handle much more easily. However, you may not need as many salespeople, and you may already have an account manager who handles transactions. So projects are a big transaction, right? Now, projects they're more complex. They tend to evolve. Once we've approved or have a project accepted, the project takes on a life of its own and it starts to evolve and change. The time between when the event takes place, and if the project is an event, and when the order is confirmed, lots of activity happens in there. That's part of what makes it a project. Lots of people touch it. There's lots of conversations. There's questions that won't get asked or answered until later on in the project. More information is going to become available. Most transactions are fairly static. We have the information that we need. So projects are more complex. Customers who buy projects want to have a single point of contact throughout the project. Some of us solve that by putting a project manager, and the salesperson hands it over to a project manager who takes on that project. Other people use the term production manager, and the project manager and the salesperson are the same person. We call that a production manager. So an account manager, a production manager, a project manager can all be the interface for a project, for a job that has duration and complexity. Which interface do you use? It's going to vary according to your company. When it comes to sales roles, though, in my opinion, an account manager is a sales role. And what account managers do is they very often work with repeat accounts, but these are not clients. These are repeat customers. A good example are agency customers. Agency customers come to you with projects. They're often putting them out to bid. They have multiple vendors that they like to work with. Who they choose to work with is going to be circumstantial. It's going to vary from project to project, but they do have a regular interface they want to deal with. And you can have multiple agencies who are customers. You can even have end clients who are customers who have a single point of contact. I like account managers to handle those accounts and be the primary contact for those customers. Now, they can get really busy, and a customer comes in and the account manager is overloaded with projects. Another account manager can handle it because they are not necessarily maintaining a relationship like we would with a client. They're maintaining a relationship for repeat transactions, which can be projects. So account managers generally focus on recurring customers who are not clients. So differentiating clients becomes very important in understanding what roles we need. For me, the interface for a client is an account executive. A client comes to you for everything. They don't presume here's what you do and here's what you don't do. They expect you to handle whatever they bring. So if it's even adjacent to what you do, A good client's going to come to you and say, hey, we're trying to do this. And the question is this something that you guys do? It's generally a statement. I need you guys to do this. So while you may be a great ballroom corporate event company, if the client comes to you and says, we're doing an outdoor festival for our company picnic, guess what? You're going to handle that as well and thank them for that business, even though it's going to rain, your ear's going to get wet because they're a client. We don't turn clients away. If we have to outsource, if we need to sub-rent, if we need to find other suppliers to come in and do specialty work, if we need to rent a tent, tables and chairs, heck, if we need to hire a caterer, we will do that for our client because that's what makes them a client. Account executives are important, and this is the highest level of interface in sales because the role of the account executive is not just to keep this super valuable client happy, is to make sure that we're getting as much of the client's buy as possible. So a client may be a large corporation and they have multiple divisions and they may have other offices, other buyers within their organization, other event planners within their organization that our account executive needs to get to. There's internal referrals inside of clients. So an account executive is a high-level interface to make sure that we capture as much of the buy from that buyer as possible by going deeper and wider into their organization. Now, we very often see this in big event sales and expo sales, the large companies, the Freemans, the GESs, companies like that, where they have account executives who handle a wide list of services, everything from expo and drayage, exhibit builds, shows, events, content for that client because they own the relationship with that client. So those are the three primary tiers of sales roles we want to talk about. The customer service transactional interface, the account manager project interface for customers, and the account executive relationship interface for your clients. Now, inside of your organization, you may have individuals that span all three of these roles. And for smaller companies, that's not unusual, and there's nothing wrong with it, as long as you're aware of the fact that the highest and best use of that person's time is wherever they are most successful. So if they are great at being an account executive, we do want to find more accounts, more clients for them to handle. If they're great at projects, maybe we need to find somebody else to handle accounts because, those client accounts, because they do require a lot of hand-holding and things that pull the sales interface away from projects. And if that sales interface is just great at writing orders, how many of you have told me you've got some great people, but they're order takers? That is not a pejorative. That's a job description. If we're really good at writing orders, then we're in the customer service rep realm. We're a sales rep, we're a project coordinator, but we could also be a good account manager because a lot of account management is project coordination. So we are taking orders and following that order through. So there's roles for all the people in our industry. We just need to put them in the right seat. Now, we need to talk a little bit about marketing, but I'm going to talk in terms of marketing and sales, business development. Another misunderstanding I want to clear up. Business development is not sales. Business development is marketing. So when you call me and say, hey, Tom, I need to hire a business development person, I want them to go out and find new business. I want them to write the orders and make sure that we get the next job. That's an account executive. That's an account manager, right? And we've asked them to do something that we should have done for them, which is find those opportunities and drive them in. And that's coming from marketing. Business development is a role. It's not a title. It's a horrible title. Business development is a role. It is a human interface for marketing. So a lot of marketing, what we do is digital, right? We've got websites. We have email campaigns. We do things sometimes in print. It involves advertising. It involves social media. So much of what happens in marketing is digital. But when we need a human to convert somebody who is sipped from our marketing and get them to move through that funnel from somebody who's just a contact into a lead, maybe to become a prospect. Business development is what helps those leads move through your funnel. And the highest and best use of business development is focusing on your ideal target customer, that persona, that profile, going to where those people gather, having those conversations, developing those relationships, making those buyers aware of who you are and how to work with you. What's the next step? Maybe we need to do a capabilities pitch. Maybe we need to learn more about your event. And business development is going to be aware that, hey, I'm dealing with a transactional buyer. Great. I'll just make sure they know how to find us when they need us. But here's somebody who regularly has projects. While they may not be client material, I'm going to introduce them to an account manager. I'm going to make sure they're aware of our capabilities. I'm going to help them know how to use us for projects. But if they run into a potential client, now we're getting into capabilities and meetings and getting them to our offices, going deep into their organization, understanding how we can help them, seeing how we can work together. And this could take months or even years of activity to get into position where that buyer, that potential client, starts to transfer their business to you for that long-term relationship. So business development is not sales. They will never write an order. They're never going to close a deal. And you're never going to pay them a commission because they are not doing transactions. We pay them differently. We incentivize them for getting us to the right people, setting up the right meetings. Their ongoing success of moving the right people through the funnel is what their compensation is based on. What is $1 million worth of new business worth to you? That's what you would pay business development to get it, right? So, if it's 10% of revenue, business development will cost you 10% of the potential revenue they can generate. And if they are not generating that revenue for you, then maybe that business development resources run their course and you need to find another one. But many times they may exceed that. So how we use business development is very strategic. So there's some insights there. Customer service reps, they will take the workload off of account managers and account execs. Account managers will take those recurring business clients, those customers who come back to you only when they need you, only when they have a project, and they don't really want to talk to you the rest of the time. They're going to keep them engaged and make sure that they have the interface that they want when they have a project to process. And account executives are going to go deeper and wider into your best clients. Keep them engaged. Make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can do for them. And if you haven't figured it out already, the margins track. Transactional margins can be extremely high, but the volume is low. Project margins are generally in the middle. They're more competitive bidding. Buyers are more likely to go to multiple suppliers. Client relationships tend to be very tight and very solid. Clients don't mind you making money as long as you are meeting their needs. You will make margin on everything you do for a client. It doesn't mean that we're gouging them. It just means that they're not going to scrutinize. If they say, hey, you need to get me a tent, tables, and chairs, they know that you're going to add margin to that in order to do that for them. They know that that's going to expand the scope of project management, and that's going to affect their price. They're not delusional about this. They just want it to be taken care of. So I hope this clears up some of your questions about what sales roles do I need in order to grow. If you're really focused on growing, let's reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what tools I have that will help you along the way, help you get there faster, feel better about the decisions that you're making. Have fun selling. Get out there. It's a great time. Thanks for listening.
If you want to find out more about today's episode, go to trstimpson.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes, related links, and tons of other valuable resources. If you haven't already subscribed to the Intentional Success Podcast, please do so, and I'd greatly appreciate if you would rate and review the show. Also, if you think you might be a good fit to work together or want more information about the Stimson Group, I'd love to hear from you. Visit trstimpson.com for more information.